All right. Welcome to the first ever Marketing Cafe live here in the Marketing Cafe Facebook group and throughout the world and LinkedIn and Twitter and a million other places. We're so glad that you joined us. Of course, as our launch one of ever doing this, there may be some bumps in the road. So we thank you for your grace through this. We would love to get your comments and feedback as we go. But I am so excited because our show today is featuring the super amazing Simi. And Simi, you're going to get to meet her. She's super charming. She's super brilliant. And she's going to be talking about unresolutions, unusual resolutions worth embracing any day, any time of the year. And, some people say they don't like resolutions. I love resolutions. It doesn't mean you have to keep them forever. But if you mean resolutions in the format of let's try to be a little organized in where we're going, why not? Right. So without further delay, let's go ahead and meet one of the most amazing people that I've got to meet in 2021. Hello, Simi.
Hello, Michael. You always set me up to show up bashful. Thank you for the for the kind words. I appreciate it. It's always a joy to share space with you. And I would say for myself, in 2021, one of the best decisions I ever made was to join the Marketing Cafe. And I would say one of the highlights of my year was meeting Michael early in the year in 2021. So uh, it goes both ways. Thank you so much, Michael.
Well, thank you for that. And so, what is the Marketing Cafe? The Marketing Cafe, we have a Facebook group. We have lots of people who are marketers, entrepreneurs, authors, people who have dreams and then want ways to share it with the world. So, that's the Marketing Cafe Facebook group. We also discovered Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is an app that's an audio only app. Uh, that was really exciting for a lot of us, especially during times where people weren't able to go to live events and do things. This was a way to engage. But instantly, what I discovered about Clubhouse was, oh my goodness, this is like going to a trade show and meeting amazing, talented people from all over the world without the air flight, without the hotel costs, without having to pay the fee to get into the trade show, without having to take a week off of work. You can literally, it's like a portal, a time portal. You can zoop right in and you're sitting around the table with really amazing people. So if you've never been on Clubhouse, we would strongly encourage you to test out Clubhouse, try it, and then make sure you search for Marketing Cafe Club. We think we're the very best club on all of
We kind of
Clubhouse.
are.
But the reason is we're all about building relationships. We love meeting new people. And rather than having these things, it started off with Clubhouse where there was kind of this attitude of a lot of influencers were coming into the space and they were, okay, well, we're on the stage and all of you little people down there, we might let you come up and say something. And afterwards, we're going to shove you off the stage. And so with our Marketing Cafe, we just really felt that that's not for us, that we wanted it to be intimate. We wanted it to be like a coffee house setting where we're sitting around a table with colleagues. Our thing is everybody's equal. If you're brand new in business, you're brand new in marketing, you're sitting at the table, you're equal. And the reason is because it was said wonderfully by one of the folks we had on a table last night. He said, each person is an infinite amount of possibilities. And so when you sit at one of our chairs, we just love diving into the infinite amount of possibilities. How would you describe Clubhouse and your experience there?
That's neat. You did a great job. And yes, I think Clubhouse was a treasure trove when I discovered it. And I like the phrase you used there of infinite possibilities. I think if each individual is a well of infinite impossibilities or infinite possibilities, imagine the collective power of individuals from different walks of life, all collected on this one platform. And what I discovered was you connect, you always assume you connect better with people when they're right in front of you, which I mean, I definitely still agree there's benefit to having someone in front of you, but recognizing that what people have to say, the stories that people tell, and the opportunity to do so in a judgment free zone, particularly in a space like what we've created at the Marketing Cafe, brings out the best in people. To be honest with you, I think I have had people share things with me via Clubhouse that they probably would not be as confident or comfortable to share, if they were sitting in a coffee shop, a live coffee shop. So, Michael, how much I love coffee shops and the coffee shop culture, and how that's sort of my habitat, and that's how I connect with people. Prior to the pandemic, but Clubhouse has provided this alternative avenue where you can achieve the same opportunities for great conversation, with the added benefit that these are voices from all across the world, and I think that anonymity provided by not having your face, well, not being there live, gives confidence to a lot of people to speak from their heart more so than they might in person. So that's something I really love about Clubhouse. And like you pointed out, we have designed the Marketing Cafe to be that space where you feel comfortable sharing what's on your mind and exchanging ideas without judgment.
So it would actually be very helpful for people who get introduced to Simi. Simi, tell us a little bit about your background. Where were you born? And then this kind of coffee house experience that you have, I think really fits into this, what we're going to talk about on resolutions, and about kind of really, I think, enjoying the world to its maximum,
Absolutely.
enjoying your day to the maximum. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, in brief, I'll start by saying coffee for me is a metaphor for community, and I enjoy coffee, but not simply because of the wonderful, tasty brew that it is, but because of what it represents symbolically, and how it's played a part in my life. So I'm from Nigeria, originally born and raised. My parents worked and traveled a bit while we were growing up, so lived in a few different places, but predominantly in Nigeria. I left Nigeria to go to college, and I was around 18 years old, and it was my first time being alone. And introspective individual that I am, I took on this new adventure, with eagerness to experience it all, but just processing along the way my experiences and everything I encountered. And so I would say I really enjoy the process of living out life on my own, and taking in new worlds through a unique lens. The United States for me was nothing like I'd seen on TV. It was, quite different. And I had to learn, one of the skills I had to learn quickly, and obviously might have already been cultivated in me through my prior travel experiences, which was adapting to my environment, and recognizing adapting in the United States is different from adapting in China, right? Because I did live in China, and even within the U.S., I lived in Georgia, I lived in Ohio, I lived in California, I lived in Texas, and I can tell you, those are very different places.
Yeah,
We'll just leave it
a
at
lot of
that.
people don't realize that about the United States. We have a lot of people from all over the world, is that you really can't describe the United States as this one whole. I mean, every state has its own unique personalities. Every part of the country has its own unique personality. So I'm glad that you discovered that and hopefully enjoyed it, the different flavors.
I did, yeah, because of the mindset I went with. But the reason I bring that up is I realized that the easiest way to adapt was to sort of, I had to have a method and I had to have a system. Now, I will tell you, I was not necessarily thinking about this at the time, but in retrospect, I realized that what I was doing was just identifying what is the pulse of the city And so whenever I would move to a new place, I mean, I discovered the world of coffee shops when I moved to the US, Starbucks around every corner. And initially, I would go to coffee shops because it was a space with free Wi Fi, where as a student, I could sit. But I began to recognize, as I would work out of coffee shops, you tended to meet a similar spectrum of individuals, right? So lots of, transients, people who are just passing through the city. You would have, if you were in a local coffee shop, you would meet some regulars who lived in the community and had stories to tell about what was going on. The baristas were always wonderful. I always made friends with the baristas, and they would tell you what was what. And I found almost, in a strange way, that coffee shops became my gateway to the city, wherever I would move to. And this was further, I would say, encouraged when several years down the line, by this time I was done at school, I was working. I had a friend who began to partner with coffee farmers in Rwanda. And they were taking former child soldiers and creating job opportunities for them through these coffee farms. And
Wow.
then they would sell the coffee, yes, in the US. And she came up with this creative idea of setting up parties with a purpose. At this time, I was in Dallas during a time when there was an influx of young professionals. Job opportunities were in abundant supply in Dallas during this time. So literally every week there'd be, a new group of fun people to meet. And so she would set up these parties, parties with a purpose. And if you brought your own mug, you would get a free coffee, and you'd get to hear the story of these child farmers. You could donate, you could buy a bag. Part of the proceeds would go back to these farms. So I began to make the connection there between, hey, leveraging coffee as a way to gather community. So long story short, eventually, once I began to work and travel for work, this just became my modus operandi. Not only would I identify the coffee shops, but would look for opportunities within each of these cities to generate support for, whether it's local business or local cause. I had the opportunity to do this while in the US, later on in China. And then when I moved back to Nigeria, officially started Bring Your Own Mug, which is now a collective of individuals around the world who love coffee, support local, are often in the creative economy, and care about making a difference in the world.
So for your business, what are you doing professionally?
That's a good question. So I
Unless you're
do wear a
unless
few
you're in the mug
hats.
business,
I do
professionally.
wear a few hats. My background is in human resource development and communications, and so I've been an independent consultant for over 12 years now, primarily working with startups or helping create new ventures within organizations, usually centered around learning and development, organizational change management, or the communications function. And it's often developing an integrated strategy that helps organizations establish, whatever the practice they're looking to establish. Because very often, no function operates independent of another within an organization. And unless designed as such, most organizations don't have the capacity or the know-how to see where communications overlaps with learning and development, or where learning and development overlaps with customer education and marketing and sales. And so with my background and experience, I consult with corporate organizations, and I have a special affinity for startups, helping them establish these processes and systems, and change management plans. I also am an entrepreneur myself, and I run a social enterprise that provides fast track training for individuals who are out of work or looking to transition into digital skills. So, on the one hand, we're providing quick training to go from zero to being able to deliver on any range of digital services. And then on the other hand, we provide access to affordable talent for small businesses and startups looking to grow who can't hire, say, a chief marketing officer of their own, but have these tasks and activities that need to be carried out in the organization. And so that's been running for the last 5 years. We mark the 5th year in February this year.
Well, that's fabulous. And we're going to get to the topic that you're presenting, which is unresolutions, and talking about resolutions we should be doing every day, all of the time. And but first, because we love coffee here in the Marketing Cafe, and you were talking about your experience about kind of going through coffee shops throughout the world, and you love kind of people come to coffee shops really in a way where it's kind of the introvert's kind of favorite way to extrovert a little bit, I think is part of it. And anyway, a great tip was suggested by one of the folks at our table last night, really wonderful gentleman we got to meet. And he said that one of his strategies at a coffee shop, when you go and you park there for a couple of hours and you're trying to meet someone really interesting, is he would always bring 3 books, and he would kind of lay them out, like it's just laid out, without making it look obvious that they're laid out. But he said that a lot of times those book titles would really draw people to come in and ask them about the books. And I know, for instance, if I walked by and someone had Marcel Proust, Remembrance of Time Lost, or something like that, I would be, hey, let's talk. But I thought it was a really great
I like that.
house strategy. All right, well, let's get into the core topic here, which is unresolutions. And you have 3 points to share with us. And so let's get into number 1.
All right, and we'll go sort of quickly through these, but Michael, maybe what we'll do is have a resource that people can access later on through maybe the Facebook group or something, so that they can deep dive into these. But a lot of this information is freely available online as well, and take this as just a starter, okay? So the first point I would like to raise, maybe I should preface and say I am one of those people who don't make New Year's resolutions. I'm not opposed to them. And if you're able to do them, great. I have figured out through the years different ways to sort of start out my year. But one of the reasons I've discovered that a lot of people don't succeed in achieving a goal is they are they're under pressure to perform, right? And that brings me to this idea of constantly doing. And so if our mindset and our orientation is to do, when we're not doing, we assess ourselves as having failed or not succeeded. And scientifically, it's demonstrated that once you get your mind into this set of, whether it's condemnation or critiquing, it's almost like you're stuck, right? Because your mind can't get past the fact that you have not done this thing well. You need a clear mind in order to make sound decisions. And you've worked yourself out of a clear mind when you're so busy condemning yourself. So the antidote to that, in my opinion, is to do less and be more. I once heard someone share that most of us go around living as if we are human doings rather than human beings. And I thought that was clever, because inherent in the description of who we are is our default state as human beings. We are there's implied within that phrase or that term the idea that we should be in a state of rest. We should be consistently aware, and we should have a pulse on where we are at any given time. And I think I'm throwing this term out there, and I know it resonated with you, Michael, when I raised it earlier. But I think for the average individual, it may seem pretty abstract, right? So what does that feel like or look like? And it's actually, I think, quite simple. And I would say it's one of those tenets where if you get into the habit and you make this part of your daily practice, it becomes your default mode. The thing is, if we were already wired to function more effectively as beings, once we get into that mode, we will begin to function well in that, in our truest state. So my recommendation is stop, or slow down and
Right.
do that often. And that sounds crazy, and you may not be able to maybe immediately see what that looks like. But let's think of a few moments in the day when we pause or we're forced to stop. Michael, can you think of a few moments throughout your day when you're sort of stopped or pausing or waiting on something?
Does it count when I jump in my spa?
Ooh, that's nice. That definitely counts. That's pre what? That's planned, right? Or do you
You
do
know
that
what?
spontaneously?
I have to. My brain never stops, and I mean, it just never stops. And that's, for people like me, it can be hard to sleep at times because you wake up and all of a sudden there's this
Your
butterfly
mind is
going
on.
by, and then boom, you're on to the next and the next and the next. But I have found that that's 30 minutes. I'll jump in there, and I do have some music that I have in the
Oh, that's good.
background,
You've
and
got this down.
it's time to think. Yeah. So but
That's
it's one of
good.
the few times my brain, it's just like there's no off button. And so I totally hear what you're saying.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Sounds like you've already built in, you've recognized the need to stop and to pause, and you've built that into your routine. And sometimes people are like, "Well, I don't have 30 minutes to, go sit in a spa. I'm in my office 9 to 5." And all right, so this might be TMI, but I've had a few colleagues share about when I take restroom breaks. They're allowed. When I take a restroom break, it's a moment to press the reset button. And I even have a couple of colleagues who have like a notepad or something that they take with them. And the restroom is a place where no one will bother you, right? No one's pounding down the door and asking you to come respond to a phone call. And so it's sort of a gimme. And I think the idea is recognizing these moments and points in your day and your daily routine where you have the luxury of time, where you don't have to be doing something or thinking. Okay, so whether it's taking a restroom break, waiting for your coffee to percolate, it might be on your commute if you ride, if you take public transport. It could be one of the times I do my most productive work or my most productive thinking work is on flights. There was a time when I traveled a lot for work, and I just loved, because no one can reach you up there in the skies. Well, these days there's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But I always felt like I had the excuse to not answer phone calls or respond to emails. And sometimes these would be long flights. And I tell you, the level of thinking that happens during those times is unmatched. So I think the first thing is one,
Isn't that
identifying.
interesting though, that I remember when Wi-Fi came to the planes, and there was
Uh-huh.
part of me that was like, this is great. And there was part of me that went, uh-oh. Because it used to
I
be the
know.
ultimate excuse. You could say, hey, I'm
Yeah,
getting ready to get on the plane, and you would have, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours,
exactly.
total excuse. And now, I mean, hey, you connected yet? You're connected yet? So yeah, I mean,
I know. It's like we're constant, and that's just it, right, Michael? Life is designed to keep us doing more, and because we make ourselves to be a product of our environment, or we allow ourselves to become a product of our environment, we then just live to perform. Whereas if you could take control of your internal environment, which is what I recommend to do when you have these pauses, these moments of pause, um, you function more effectively. And the great thing, Michael, is we're not just saying stop working, let it all go to dust. It's, if you allow yourself time to be more, you're functioning at your most optimal, and you end up being a lot more productive. I mean, science backs this, so it's not just philosophy. Um, and so I would recommend identifying those moments in your day when you can pause, or creating them if you're able to do so, if you make your own schedule and build them in. I just find that it's easier if you don't have to create something new, and you can just build this into your routine. So highlight those moments, and then during those moments, be intentional. A few things I like to do are have specific questions that allow me to check in, because introspection, there's some people are more introspective than others. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, I don't know what am I supposed to do. Like, how do I check in with myself? And I always say, ask the question, where am I? Because very often our physical location is very different from our mental location, right? So in the moment, where am I? And I find that always helps uh, bring me, if I realize my mind is focused on something that does not help or contribute to a current need, then I need to bring my mind back to where I'm at physically. I hope that's not sounding too
No, no.
abstract. Okay, and so just I know that I want to be aware of time, but that's the first point, and
Yeah, and
definitely something
just
I'd
for
love to
clarity,
unpack.
we kind of shoot these for 30 minutes, but the beautiful thing is we're not having a paid TV segment, so we can go over and it costs the same, which I love. But one of the other things that's really, I think, key about the breaks part, and this is one of the things I love about being a solopreneur, is that hearing you say that, how important these are. I have in my garage, I have a workout studio. And in the workout studio, I can go on my stationary bike and I get to watch my European soccer. And so that's my time away where I watch the soccer and I ride on the stationary bike. But it's so precious to me to be able to go out there and then just kind of have those moments, and they're super valuable. So I love that. And then the idea of being so important. Most of our folks, those who we'd say are super successful, and so some would be people who have founded incredible organizations, nonprofits, or business. You're billionaires, you're people who are at the top of the game. Most of them share this one element of advice, say above all others, which is invest in yourself. And if
Yes.
you invest in yourself, then that pays dividends day after day. So this idea of not getting overly task focused and getting more being focused, I think, is really good resolution that you've shared. So that's number one, right?
That's number one. Uh, do less and be more. And so moving on to number two, which I think is along a similar strain, it's to practice gratitude. And again, it's one of those, cliche statements you might come across from time to time. Um, but the word practice implies this is a deliberate act, and
Mhm.
it's something you cultivate, right? And so yes, be grateful, have a gratitude mindset, I think, in general. But the practice of gratitude, I think, is a bit different than just having a gratitude mindset, which I think is essential. I think the practice of gratitude creates a discipline that I think when you achieve discipline in any area of your life, your mental capacity conforms to just the idea of being deliberate in any area of your life. So let me try and simplify that. Athletes, I think, excel or have potential to excel in many areas of life because they have established a discipline of a regimen of practice. Anyone who musicians, for example, I love, they're world class pianists who have accomplished so much through steady practice and the discipline of maintaining a routine, ensuring that they meet certain standards within their field of interest. And because they've established discipline in this area, it becomes a lot easier to just be a disciplined person. Okay, and so practicing gratitude, I think, can help achieve the same. And this actually came up in a recent marketing cafe conversation, and I think is an ongoing part of conversations we have in the marketing cafe. This idea of, as an entrepreneur, how you reward yourself, and how you take care of yourself, what self-care looks like. One of our colleagues and our friend to the marketing cafe, Richard, would say, don't expect to be able to reach me anytime between the hours of 1 and 1:30 because I'm in my practicing gratitude group. And he actually creates like he's got 30 minutes set out. every day where a group of people get together and they just say what they're grateful for. Now, obviously, it's a good practice in general, but also scientifically, it's demonstrated that practicing gratitude in this deliberate way also unlocks your creativity as an individual, minimizes the impact of fear. So, very often our decisions are based out of fear, with a fear of failure, fear of how people will perceive you, fear of looking small, whatever those fears are. And because our learning, in order to learn, you need to be able to get over that stumbling block of fear. If that fear is somewhere deep down your subconscious, you're less likely to make sound decisions, less likely to learn from experiences, and so on. And scientifically, it's proven that by practicing gratitude, you're able to get yourself past that hump. And so, a few practical ways to do this: you can, like Richard, adopt a specific segment during your day to practice gratitude. I've heard people say before they close, before they wrap up for the day, before they go to sleep at night, they write down a few things that they're grateful for, and they're very deliberate about this. Richard, again, once a month, rewards himself with an Employee of the Month award. I know being an entrepreneur can be a thankless job. So say thank you to yourself for what you're accomplishing, to remind yourself that you have something to offer. I'd like you to chime in here, Michael, because I
Yeah,
sense something brewing.
I love the idea of that you need to thank yourself. And I coach entrepreneurs a lot, that it can seem like you're grinding, you're grinding, you're grinding, and that can create frustration. And so a lot of times what I'll suggest to them is, at some point, you're climbing this mountain, and sometimes it feels like you're going straight up. Sometimes it feels like you're going through these winding trails. Sometimes it feels like, you're curved around and it's, wait, have I been here before? But what's really important, and this is from anyone who really enjoys, I love going out on hiking, and I don't know what it is about mountains, but we love to climb to the top of mountains. And you get on a trail, you want to get to the top of the mountain. But a lot of times we never hit those mountains, or we come around a bend, and where we thought was the peak, it's like, oh no, that's not the peak. It's way higher. And so the key with this is that you, what I coach my entrepreneurs on is, at some point, put your backpack down, pull out a sandwich, sit on, and then look down and see how far you came. Because when you're hiking, a lot of times just looking down is exactly what it takes to go, wow, I really have climbed pretty far. And we don't take those moments and not. So expressing gratitude to ourselves is really important. The other piece is that gratitude it really is a superpower in a lot of ways. And I have a mentor from way back named Neil, 25 years ago, maybe even farther, 30 years ago. And I just really respected him because I was just very young getting into business. And he was toward the end of his business. He was senior executive, very high up in Rotary International, and a real leader. And at one point, he shared that his secret, he said, I have one secret. One secret is being a leader. And it's this. He says, appreciate people. And it's pretty hard to argue with that not being kind of the most important thing as a leader. If you appreciate the people, and you not just say, hey, thanks, but to actually deep felt from the heart, really appreciate that individual. It was shared as a superpower for leadership.
Okay, I think I was muted there, but I was just saying that was brilliant, Michael. And to be honest, at the end of the day, one of the benefits of being more is that there's more of us available to be the best of who we can be to other people. You might notice that on days when you're tired or exhausted, you tend to be short with people. You have less patience. You're less likely to observe the needs in other people's lives when you're consumed with concerns of your own. And so I find that the more time I invest, there was a meme I came across somewhere that said, I'm having some alone time, and trust me, this is for your good, right? Like, I need this time in order to be a better person for you. And I think, both ideas,
I
doing
need
less
this
and
time to be a better person for you. Really good.
exactly. Uh, so doing
Oh,
less
that's
and
great.
being more, gratitude at the end of the day makes you, live a healthier, happier life, but also makes you, positions you to add more value to the lives of others. And then very quickly, the third, and this one's for
So
you,
let's go
Michael,
over the first two real quick. So the first one was
was to do less and be more.
the
Okay.
second one.
The second one is practice gratitude.
And now for the drum
And now,
roll, the third of the
our third,
unresolutions.
our third unresolution here is, and I said this one's for you, Michael, don't be perfect.
Oh man.
And you know what? This is coming from a recovering perfectionist. I've had to imbibe this mindset over time for the sake of my peace, but also I realized that as I was growing this organization, my social enterprise, I was influencing the culture with my own mindset. So a lot of people would give me feedback that my staff had a certain inclination or were too formal or too, too. And I realized a lot of this was a reflection of who I was. And so one of the things we're embracing now is validation is more important than done. Okay. When you're carrying out a project or an activity, validation is more important than done. And this is a concept you'll come across in the product management world and the lean startup approach and the agile, some of these trending terms in business. And I think this is really useful if you are running a business or you're an entrepreneur, you render services as a solopreneur. Very often we feel the need to have a complete package before we start to sell anything. The product mindset is you look to create, a minimum viable product. So the product is functional, may have minimal functionality, but it is functional. It can be used to achieve something. And I think importantly, you can get validation from putting this product out. So case in point, the pioneer edition of Marketing Cafe Live.
So here's the thing where this will get into a little bit of a debate part
All
of it.
right, bring it on.
Is because this I totally agree with the idea of don't be perfect, but shoot for perfect. And then, falling short of it is usually really excellent. And so, for instance, just to show that I'm practicing this, we were supposed to launch last Wednesday, right? I sent you a note saying, "Hey, I'm running behind. How about if we push it
That
out a
was
week so we
good.
can promote it?" Not perfect, right?
Yes,
But nobody knows until now, right? That we launched this a week. And then
exactly.
also I had so many other things going on that it's, oh gosh, I got to get the streaming software down. And not perfect to be getting trained the night before. Shout out to Dean. You've seen Dean here share a lot of comments here. And I lied to Dean. I said last night, Dean, can you give me 5 or 10 minutes of your time? And an hour and a half later, he went through kind of training me on the program. But I can tell you the way my mind's working is the whole time I'm doing this first inaugural one, in myself, I'm beating myself up. It's like, oh, I should have her 3 points ahead of time. They should be overlays. I should have the web addresses. I should be clicking on this.
Well,
But
stop, Michael.
but I did make a choice to be less than perfect because so you shoot for, and the reason that I say do try to shoot for high. If you put that little, sometimes excellent is only a little extra work. And if it's good, it's not reusable. If it's excellent, it'll have lifetime value. So it's actually a life hack that if you do
Absolutely.
things, if you shoot for perfect, you're not going to get it. But if you settle into excellent, you'll get so much more life out of those. And so I'm a big fan. People say, "Oh, just start a podcast, just
Just
do it.
do
Don't
it.
worry about anything." And I'm like, no, let's start it right. Let's put the little extra work. Doesn't need to be perfect, but let's start it right. And as a result of that, I have two podcasts. One is 156 published episodes, the other is 137. But there's not a single episode where I'm embarrassed to have people go and listen.
Yes.
Now, there's a difference between episode number one and episode 156.
Right. Incremental
One is
improvement.
less perfect. Let me just say that. But
Yeah.
so really do shoot for making things as good as they can in the beginning. So I'm
Thanks.
totally agreeing with you, but I think I think there is a little too much of this just do it piece.
Yes.
And then
And
people waste a lot of time and energy. And then sometimes you get discouraged if you just do it and you just don't do it
you just
well.
flop.
Yeah.
Right. No,
But
I agree with you. I agree.
if you can hear, I'm protesting too much, as William Shakespeare.
Thou
Yeah.
protested too much.
So you nailed me on this one. So
No. Well, I wanted to say a couple of things. One is for context, one of our fundamental values as an organization is excellence. So that's a default. So I think it is important to frame any practice within, the context of your overarching values. And so my team know that excellence, delivering excellence all the time is a given, right? And so if we say validate is more important than done, that does not remove from the equation our pursuit for excellence. I also wanted to give an example. Some of the I'm not sure if this
before
was
you do, could you
okay.
explain validate? Because that's a little unclear to me.
Absolutely. Okay. So validating means getting sufficient feedback or reactions to your work along the way so that you discover early what's working well or what's not working well before you arrive at a complete project. So I may ask you, say, for example, we're working on a writing project or a web development project, Michael, and, you decide to wait until the entire website's ready before you deliver it to me, and you bring it to me and I say, well, those are not our brand colors, or that's not the shade of green we wanted, or oh, actually accessibility requirements are important to us because we're delivering learning solutions. So we've got to go back to the beginning, and that's an extreme example. um, Obviously built into your processes, I assume, are ways to check in with the client. um, the other thing that's critical to this tenet is shorten the time to value. So the sooner I derive value from you, the the more my confidence builds in you and what you can do, right? So I have all kinds of thoughts going through my mind while I'm waiting for the first iteration of whatever you're building for me. But say, for example, you shoot me an email and say, hey, Sims, just showing you a couple of mock-ups that our team came up with the other day. This is really panning out well. All right, I feel a sense of relief. Okay, this is looking good. And you can get a reaction from me at that point saying, ooh, I hope that color I see in the mockup is not what you're using. And you can respond. So that's validation. In project management, the goal is just get to each milestone. With a product mindset, you're thinking create value at each step or each phase in your process, and get feedback on that value. Does that does that
That
make
sounds
sense?
that sounds great. Yeah.
Okay. And so the final thing I was just going to say is, someone gave me feedback once we had worked on a project together. And as part of our lessons learned, we were supposed to go around and share just an encouraging remark or just feedback to someone. And this, girl out of the blue said, Simi, you have a perfect first draft. And
Perfect. I like that.
yes, and it
Perfect
was
first draft.
yes,
I
we
like
had
that.
written this like proposal, and she said, "Simi, the one thing I can say about you is you have a perfect first draft." And it dawned on me that, oh, your first draft is actually supposed to be written with mistakes, apparently, but because my mindset is wired to deliver excellence, even if it is the first draft, even if I need to get it done in a short amount of time, because that mindset is there. It is still the first draft. It's still going to be improved upon, but there's a standard, right? There's some boundaries by which I guide myself. So just wanted to share that by way of showing solidarity with you, Michael. I understand the need. I understand the need. And I know we've overshot the time, but this has been great. I hope you all remember to do less and be more. I hope
Mhm.
you remember to practice gratitude and make this a part of your daily routine. And finally, Don't be perfect. Don't compromise on excellence, but you don't have to be perfect.
All right. Well, as I had told you, you were going to have a wonderful time with Simi. Totally well spoken, always have brilliant things to share. Simi, so glad that you joined me. And I knew you were entrepreneurial enough to know that we had someone with all these levers and buttons here, and you trusted me to hit the go live button on this. And this has been great fun. And
Thank
so,
you.
Simi, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining us
Michael. It's been a
in the
joy.
first cast. Okay, so that's our first one that we've done here in the Marketing Cafe. This is the Marketing Cafe Live, and we did UNresolutions here, and unusual resolutions worth embracing any day, any time of the year. Our goal is we're going to do this once a week here in the Marketing Cafe. I've already got people lined up through February. If you're super fascinating and interesting and have something to share to either marketers, entrepreneurs, or authors, please let me know and we'll get you on the schedule as well for this. Now, Marketing Cafe exists here in the Facebook group. It also exists on Clubhouse. You can connect with us there. You can find Simi and a host of other amazing people all over the world by going to marketingcafe.club. And if I was perfect, I would have that address screaming underneath the screen. And go to marketingcafe.club and you'll have all our connection points there. You can get connected with us and learn about Clubhouse. If you haven't tried Clubhouse, come into the Marketing Cafe and check it out as well. And we're going to be doing these. And also these recordings are going to go into the Marketing Cafe Academy. And so we have teachings and trainings by our Marketing Cafe professionals from all over the world. And once a week, we're going to have 50 of these to add to the Marketing Cafe Academy. So this has been a wonderful time. Thanks for joining us here, and we'll see you next time in the Marketing Cafe.